So today we are speaking about a very important topic. The topic is about how to answer questions that you get in paper 2 swiftly without overwriting it, without losing good logical points, how to make a flow of the right answer, and what not to do actually. So in this video, we're gonna basically try and I will help you out with basically my thought process that how would I approach a certain type of questions. So first up, we are going to understand what are the three main types of questions. So there will be a generic question. For example, um, let's have a look at this one. So the first type of question that we're going to look at today is the type of question which says that you got to basically tell or compare a difference between two things, and you got to use multiple formulas to make sure that you write the best answer. So let's look at the perspective of this question first. In this question, initially there is a wire X, which has a resistance here. There's internal resistance and voltage. When you go down, you're going to see that they've said that a wire Y has the same cross-sectional area as wire X and is made up of same metal, wire Y, and is longer than wire X. Wire X in the circuit is now replaced by wire Y. Assume that wire Y has the same temperature as X. State and explain whether the average drift speed of the free electrons in wire is greater than, same as, or less than that in wire X. So this is the question. Now, usually a 3-mark question scares me a lot, so I basically pre-plan this in my head. So I know for the fact that resistance is given by rho L upon A. If they have the same cross-sectional area, it's the same material, then I know that resistance is proportional to length, which means if you increase the length, like I guess in this one, you have a longer length, so the resistance should increase. Then the next thing I'm going to think about is what is it going to impact or create an impact on the current. The current basically is has a relationship with resistance like this. So if the resistance increases, obviously the current is going to reduce because they are inversely proportional. You guys might know this as well. Then the next thing that I'm going to look at is we want to find the drift speed, and the drift speed is given by I equals to NAVE. So I'm making that connection so that I know what to write at the end for 3 marks, which means that then I got to write that because area is the same, it's the same material, so N is the same, charge and electron is the same, so I is proportional to V. If the current reduces, then it means that the drift speed would also reduce. Anyhow, so time to write this. If I were you, I would take these key points and I'm going to write it like this. So there could be a good answer. When I say a good answer, it doesn't mean that a bad answer would not score you marks, but I am basically teaching you how to be distinct, make sure that from other candidates you are placed in a better position. The examiner thinks, okay, you have written very well, like that. So a good answer would be that wire Y has greater length than greater length than wire X. So since R equals to rho L upon A, it will have greater resistance. So I've basically put on the first point in this. Then in the next point, I'm going to say wire Y will have less current as resistance is equal to voltage over current, right? Then I'm gonna say, since I is equal to NAVE, so less current means it will have less drift velocity of moving charges. Now what I've done is I have basically well structured the question. My question is logical in the sense that it has a certain flow and it's going through that, and these flow type questions, when you're comparing it, you don't want to randomize it. You don't want first point to be the last point to be the first point, so you have to make a plan like I have made the plan on the side. Now I'm going to compare this with a bad answer. Now most of us, what we do is we look at the mark schemes, and mark schemes are basically for teachers or the examiners who want to assess a student, but it's not something to for the students to just rote learn it, because if you rote learn the mark scheme, basically what happens is you start writing bad answers. They could be correct, they might give you full mark, then if you're achieving for a distinction, or you may find it a bit sometimes, in the mark scheme, you've learned something, you can move points up or down in the logical structure, and then it might not give you the right credit. Anyway, so the bad answer would be greater length, greater resistance. So this is the answer that is going to give you full mark, but then it's something that's very poorly written. Then in the next step, so current will be less, and the third thing, hence drift velocity will be less. So this would basically give you that particular bad answer vibe to the examiner as well. And if you're aiming for a very high score like distinction or something, you do not want to write answers like these. They're terrible at things to do. Alright, so this is how you should be writing. Other than that, if you have any questions about that, do let me know. So I'm gonna go to the next one, and in the next question I check this. So let's look at the background of this question. In this question, it says that there is a wire that is basically like there's a seabed, and they've connected the wire there, and obviously due to the upthrust and weight, something is like floating. It's sort of a less dense material than the water. Anyway, so going down, it says the surface of water gradually increases, rises until it is level with the top face of the cylinder, and Stein explain qualitatively, which means you only need to use words to do that. You don't need numbers to explain that. The variation of strain energy as the water level rises. So I'm going to look at what is really happening in the diagram. I'm going to first make a plan, because this is I think 2-mark question. Okay, that's fine. So I know the first thing is I'm going to see what kind of forces are there. So obviously there's going to be a weight acting, and with the weight there must be an upthrust acting at this point as well. But the thing is that upthrust depends on rho g delta v. So density is constant, g is constant. Change in volume is the volume that is submerged or taken by the cylinder within water. So if the water level rises, which means now let's suppose it goes full, so water level reaches here, so means the effective volume that is within the water now rises, which means that upthrust is going to be the greatest force, right? Now if the upthrust is the largest force, then I know weight is constant because the object is the same, but then the tension in the wire is going to increase, so which means this tension increases because the increase in the upthrust. So this is the first point I got from my thinking, right? Then I would say obviously strain energy is given by half into force into extension. Obviously, when the force increases, then the energy that is stored within this material would also increase. So I'm going to write that, right? So let's keep these two things in mind, and let's write the answer logically. So I'm going to say, I'm going to write a good answer here again, and I need to address this qualitatively. So I'm going to say that as water level would rise, according to upthrust equals to rho g delta v, the upthrust increases, but weight stays constant, right? So I'm going to write this. Then this would increase the tension force in the wire. So energy, which is equal to half times force times x, would also increase. So I have basically told the examiner that exactly I know what is affecting the energy and how it has increased. So I have basically given a logical flow in this question as well. Then you guys need to remember that a bad answer for this one that might give you the full mark would be a marking scheme style written. That would be upthrust increases, weight constant. Alright, so this is how they write marking scheme, just to save time, and you guys are like copying that. That's very bad actually. So upthrust increases, weight constant, tension increases, hence energy increases. So they would write something like that, and if you've written this logically, it's right. I mean, there's no doubt that you're gonna get the 2 marks. But the thing is that, again, I'm emphasizing, if you really want to impress, and you want to make sure that you do the best, then you have to follow the good answer. You can write the bad answer, it's not a big deal as well. Anyway, then comes the fact questions. In the fact questions, basically you need the right keywords. The keywords are important here, and with practice you should know which keywords are there. When you're basically studying from a teacher who has the right knowledge, he will always tell you what keyword you need to include, and that would basically help you analyze whether you need to consider that when you're writing this. So for example, this is a fact question like, what is meant by the term period, right? Now I would basically give it a right and a wrong answer. So there's a very thin difference between them. The right answer would be that you're writing that it is the time taken to produce 2 adjacent wavefronts. Now I have basically written what is a period. So basically you can also change the language, like you can say, okay, it is the time between the 2 adjacent time periods, the wavefronts. But the thing is that in this one, this word is the keyword that I've highlighted, because a lot of people, when they write a wrong answer, they would not write this keyword and get it wrong. For example, they would have written that it is the time taken to produce 2 wavefronts. Now if you write this technically what's missing is that basically you haven't written adjacent. So it could be like different wavefronts, like there are different wavefronts. What two wavefronts are you talking about? Are you talking about this one? Are you talking about this one? Or are you talking about this and this one? So it's basically is not accurate because you're not, that's an ambiguous answer and you won't get any credit for that. Then I would basically recommend that going through these type of answers, make sure that you learn when you're learning definitions, just write down the keywords of each definition that is there, because definition laws, they require certain keywords that need to be included. If you don't do that, then obviously it would be wrong. Anyhow, so now let's look at how effectively you can read. Most of the people just skip this principles, right? And I would want that the most important thing in mark scheme is not what they have, how they've checked it. This is how what they're following through and the guidelines, right? So first of all, they have basically first rule that I'm going to highlight here. They've said that the marks must be awarded in line with the specific content of mark scheme or generic level descriptors for the questions. Specific skills defined in mark schemes or generic descriptors for the questions. The standard of response required by candidate and exemplified by standardized scripts. Now, so it's basically they're saying that we have, when we set a standard, you're gonna basically check the response with those standards. Obviously they will have certain standards, like certain keywords, certain form of logical reasoning that they're looking at. So you need to basically be aware of that. Then marks are always awarded as whole marks, not half marks, as you guys know that. And marks must be awarded positively if marks are awarded for correct and valid answers as defined in the mark scheme. That is correct. However, credit is given for valid answers which go beyond the scope. So credit is given for valid answers which go beyond the scope of syllabus, mark scheme, referring to your team leader as appropriate. So what they're saying is they're talking about they're talking to their own examiners. They're saying if somebody has written a very good answer that's basically beyond even the syllabus, but that's logically correct, and you can basically, they refer it to maybe a physics teacher who's a renowned teacher there, and obviously they will give you marks, and that's how distinctions are given out. Then marks are awarded when candidates clearly demonstrate what they know and can do. Marks are not deducted for errors. So if you've written this logically, which means when I'm saying a logical answer means that you know exactly what you're writing, which means you have step by step evaluated which formulas affect something, which quantity affects the other one. Then it is basically a logical answer. You can't just randomize things. Then it says answer should only be judged on the quality of spellings, pronunciation and grammar, assessed by question indicated in the mark scheme. However, should be unambiguous. So they're not judging you for your writing punctuation. It's not an English exam, but don't make it ambiguous. Anyway, then the thing is that I want to basically move towards, because this video has gone very long, I want to move towards these points. So there will be some categories which are independent marks. Independent marks basically means that they do not depend on other things. If you have written just that point, obviously you're going to get awarded, and it's not connected to the other point as well. So sometimes you get a lot of independent marks, and when you do past paper practice, just look out for what are the crucial independent marks. Then the method marks are the most important, because the method marks basically is something that answer marks rely on, which means that if your answer is correct but your method was wrong, then you would be awarded no points, because your method should be correct in order to get the full mark for the answer as well. Then C is the compensatory marks. This is basically the working, the formulas you've sometimes written, and then maybe you made a calculation mistake, or your calculator gave you a wrong value, or you pressed a button and then you want to find that particular answer. So you basically, you want to basically, you have done the right working, so examiner is going to look at the working and he's going to give you compensatory marks, but not the answer mark. So it's always good to basically go for different, you have to basically make sure that you do the working and do not leave that, because it is sometimes, scary to not get any marks if you have not done the working. Anyway, the answer marks are basically, the answer marks, they include that you need to basically write them in correct significant figures, and obviously they must be in the they should be correct. So that is all. So I hope you guys understood something. I will see you again sometime with a new video, and have a nice day. Bye.